Okay, moving on to the next segment of today's show. Andrew, here's a segment I wanted to get into, and I think this is a point that fans across the NFL kind of need to start realizing. So, you remember last year when the Kansas City Chiefs won their Super Bowl, they kind of got the Seattle Seahawks Legion of Boom treatment. You remember when the Seahawks won that Super Bowl against the Broncos, everyone was like, oh my god, that defense is so good. They have so many good young players. They have a young quarterback in Russell Wilson. The Seahawks are about to become a dynasty. They're about to become the next Patriots. They're about to win, 3 or 4 rings within the next 10 years. And what ended up happening? They got to one more Super Bowl, haven't been back since. And when the Kansas City Chiefs beat the San Francisco 49ers in this past Super Bowl, they were kind of getting that same treatment. And one thing I will say is that when I look at some of the quarterbacks in the AFC right now, I think that there's a chance that a lot of them could be not as good as Pat Mahomes, but they could definitely beat him. And I think that throughout this NFL season, and we've watched 18 weeks of football, there are so many quarterbacks in the AFC that have really caught my attention and that have really improved throughout the season. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow when he gets back healthy, Trevor Lawrence when he gets drafted, maybe even Justin Fields when he gets drafted. There are so many good young quarterbacks in this AFC, dude, and I feel like Baker Mayfield as well. I feel like not a lot of people are talking about that. Everyone is saying, oh, the Kansas City Chiefs, they are by far and away the best team in football right now, and I'm not saying they're not, but dude, I just think they're much closer to everyone else than really everyone realizes.
Yeah, I think that, look, this is a very big hype train with these quarterbacks. Look, Pat Mahomes, I think, is the best out of all of them. But, it's not all about the quarterback, we could see, you saw when Peyton Manning versus Seahawks, that defense just really totaled him and the whole offense. And they were a high-powered offense. So, I think it's really based on matchups. And I think, you need a team that has a strong defense like the Steelers or a team that has, a really good quarterback. And there's a lot of them, like we just said. So, I think, I really think that,
if you, dude, I'm telling you, man, if you just put a better quarterback on the Rams defense, I think they could beat Kansas City. No doubt about it. If you put a more dynamic quarterback, if you put literally Deshaun Watson on that team, I think they could definitely be very capable. But dude, that's my thing with Kansas City, man. They will be taking on the Cleveland Browns coming up on Sunday, and we're going to get into the picks coming up. But dude, everyone is basically shooing in Kansas City for the win, and I get why. Cleveland's defense isn't ideal. There's a really good chance that Patrick Mahomes and that offense just goes off. But Cleveland does have a shot to win this game. Cleveland does something that no one else that Kansas City has faced could really do, and that is run the football, and not only effectively, but at an elite level, man. The Cleveland Browns are the best rushing team in the NFL. When that dynamic duo of Chubb and Hunt gets going, they're super tough to beat. And Andrew, in games like this, sometimes the formula may just be keep Patrick Mahomes off the field as much as possible. Maybe Myles Garrett could force a turnover. How do you think the Browns can win this game?
Well, I think exactly how you said. I think they're going to have to run the ball, and I think that's very achievable because this Chiefs defense is good, but it's really not. You have one good piece up front that can stop the run in, Jones. So I think that would be. But I think the formula is to run the ball, do a lot of play action. They're going to have to take deep shots, and, they're going to have to make some big plays because. But the key is when they get in the red zone, they're going to have to get touchdowns. And I know that's pretty obvious, but, if they're unable to convert on, those big plays, like a 3rd and goal, then they're going to lose. I think it's really closer than we think because, I have a high view on the Browns' defense. I think they have 2 good rushers in Olivier Vernon.
Well, Vernon is actually hurt out for the season. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Myles Garrett can still take over a game.
And Ward is healthy.
Yeah, Ward, and you got Sheldon Richardson, and I think they're just on this this momentum swing after winning their game against Pittsburgh. So, I still take Kansas City, but I think they have that formula where they can run the ball. Baker Mayfield makes a few good plays, and that defense is bend but don't break. And the Chiefs are easily beat. They're beatable on any Sunday. Any team is, which is the beauty of the NFL.
Yeah, dude, and I'll say this, man, you and I spoke a lot about this before the season started, I believe, that we just don't know if Lamar Jackson could ever beat Pat Mahomes in a playoff game. And over the last 17 weeks, I've really changed that opinion. And it's funny because we saw Kansas City and the Ravens play. It was a long time ago, week 3. But we saw that game happen, and Kansas City ran them out of their own home stadium. And I still believe that watching the way Lamar Jackson plays right now, man, he is so good. And I'm not going to call him a great quarterback, but I am going to call him a great player. Because when you're game planning for him, you literally have to do whatever you can to stop him. And we're going to get into the Bills-Ravens game a little bit more in depth later in the show. But, dude, like, I think there's a chance he just goes bonkers on Saturday night against the Bills, who have a very tough time stopping the run. And even Josh Allen, if the Bills do end up winning that game, man, we have spoken about it a lot, just how impressive his development has been. And I'm not saying he is Patrick Mahomes, but if the Bills defense could just improve a little bit, I think McDermott is good enough to, stand toe-to-toe with Andy Reid in a big game. He's another guy, by the way, that comes from that Andy Reid coaching tree. Mm-hmm. But I think when you look at Kansas City, man, it's obviously going to be very interesting to see how they come out on Sunday. One thing about them is, dude, like, they haven't been blowing teams out. Looking at their schedule over the last couple weeks, all of their games have really been close. They were in a game, one-possession game late with the Miami Dolphins. That game should not have been close. They beat Carolina by 2. They beat the Raiders by 4. They beat the Broncos by 6. They beat the Saints by 3. They beat the Falcons by 3. So, dude, when you look at this Kansas City Chief team, man, like, what are your expectations for them? Do you expect them to come out throughout these next 2 games of the playoffs and run to the Super Bowl, or what?
Well, I wouldn't say run, but I think that they're still my favorite because, I mean, they have the best quarterback out of all these teams, in my opinion. And, I think that's their expectation as well. It's just going to be, they're going to have, it's not going to be a cakewalk because, you got Lamar Jackson. They're going to either go against Lamar or Josh Allen in the next round if they win. And this game against Cleveland is not a guaranteed. But I think that they still have an edge in just explosiveness over all those teams. They can pass the ball at will. And I don't see any of these defenses locking up Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and McCole Hardman and Sammy Watkins. Those guys, it's just they have so much power.
Edwards-Helaire is going to be playing too. Yeah,
Le'Veon Bell. They have so much firepower in that offense. It's going to take a lot of some luck as well. To beat this team, you're going to need a turnover. You're going to need that Pat Mahomes to make a mistake. And
but at the same time, dude, like, you're totally right. But at the same time, dude, like, the thing that's very tricky about when you watch Patrick Mahomes is, like, he'll have individual plays, obviously, where it's like, shit, like, no one else in the league could make those kind of throws. No one else in the league could be this dynamic. But at the same time, I also think there's an argument to be made that, look, the way the Buffalo Bills were playing, obviously they didn't play great on Saturday, but Josh Allen just found a way to win. The way the Bills were playing going into that game, the way that Lamar Jackson is running the football, like, I don't think it's unreasonable to think and be confident that either one of those two teams have just as good of a shot to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC.
Yeah, no, I agree. Every team in this playoffs has some sort of crutch, and I think the crutch for, the Ravens is if they get down, we have to see if Lamar can really...
Well, they were down 10-0 on Sunday, and that was another thing about Lamar, the way he played, super impressive, showing that not only that he could win a playoff game, but he has the ability to come back from a double-digit deficit.
Yeah, that was big. I just think the one thing is the Titans, their
defense is trash.
I wasn't bought on them. They have no pass rush. Like, the Bills' defense is going to be better. They have a few more guys that could, actually rush the passer. So
I'm going to be very fascinated to see what exactly the Bills' game plan on defense is going to be in this game, because if you want to stack the box and bring your safeties up, Poyer, Hyde, those are two very good players. You could do that, and that's fine. But if Lamar gets past them, it's a track me to the end zone, which is a big problem. So I'm going to be very curious to see what exactly the game plan for this Bills defense is, because, dude, if you think about it, the Bills defense was elite last year. That was a top 5 defense. And, like, this year, it's not bad, but it's like 16-17, and they're 22nd in the league in stopping the run. We just saw what Jonathan Taylor was able to do. So that game as well is going to be super fascinating.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more in the next segment, but I think the Bills have one thing that they have is Tre'Davious White, and he can lock up Hollywood Brown.
But here's my... Obviously, we'll get into it later, but, like, I don't necessarily know if they need to lock up Hollywood Brown, because I don't know...
Exactly. It's even just in case,
Yeah.
But, and that will let them play an extra safety in the box, you could put him on one-on-one, but... Yeah,
dude, so let's get into the Packers a little bit. So I started off this segment by saying, when you look at Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't think it's crazy to say that there are plenty of other teams in the AFC that as soon as this year, maybe next year, could be a legitimate threat. But I'm actually going to go to the opposite with Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers in the NFC. If they could keep him upright, I don't necessarily know if I see as many threats in the NFC as I do in the AFC. And it's crazy because going into the season, I did not feel that way. But it's just a matter of the sport, where as great of a coach as Sean McVay is, and I think he could come up with a game plan to at least compete with Aaron Rodgers on Saturday, like, he doesn't have a quarterback that I think could outduel Aaron Rodgers in a big game. You'll get Seattle. They obviously have a quarterback that's very good, but Pete Carroll is a little bit behind the sticks in terms of the improvement with technology and the overall fact that he's just 70 years old. Like, that's hard to out-scheme a young coach that is, preparing for football each and every day, like 12 hours a day, like McVay and Shanahan is. Shanahan's another guy, elite coach, doesn't have a quarterback. Pete Carroll needs to catch up with the improvements and the modernness in the league. When you watch Seattle, imagine if they could put like DK Metcalf in motion or something like that, bro. Like, they're so non-creative, and they fired their offensive coordinator. It's going to be an interesting hire. But, dude, like, Seattle, they're not ready, I think, to compete with Green Bay. Think about the Packers division, right? We watched it in the AFC East as Jet fans, right? The Patriots were great, right? There's no denying that. They were a dynasty. But at the same time, bro, we're going to agree that part of the reason why they were so good was because the Jets could not do anything. The Dolphins could not do anything. The Bills could not do anything. And I think that there's a decent chance that when you look at the future of the NFC North, Minnesota is going to bail from Kirk Cousins eventually if he doesn't start winning games. The Lions are going to be in a full rebuild. The Bears, they have Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback right now. They're going to be moving on from him. Like, the Packers in the NFC, I think, are destined to really have a nice 2 to 3, maybe 4-year run here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that one thing going into this Rams game, though, is I don't think Jared Goff needs to actually outduel him, because I mean, this Rams defense is number one in the league, and the matchup I'm looking for is Jalen Ramsey versus Devontae Adams. I mean, that's going to...
Because dude, a lot of people have said that. Like, if you shut down Devontae Adams, or at least limit him, then maybe that is your best chance.
There's not too many other weapons, you know? Yeah. I mean, I know they have that good tight end, but yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about that more, but going into it, yeah, I think that the Packers have a very good 2-year window as well, because a lot of the teams are just in either the middle or just rebuilding. So I think that's the case.
And it's crazy, dude, because before the season started, like, I just did not expect that to be the case at all, dude. The AFC, like, there's so many young quarterbacks that have came really, come some out of nowhere, some, draft, but the AFC has a lot of really good...
Oh, yeah.
The AFC, it has a lot of very good quarterbacks. And when I look at the NFC, like, bro, Kyler Murray's great, but we're not sure if he has the right coach. We look at the Falcons. They're not ready to win right now. The Buccaneers, Brady's not going to be there long term. The Giants, we don't know if they have a quarterback. Everything that's been going on in Philly, Washington doesn't have a quarterback. Like, bro, the NFC is ripe for the Packers taking, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, because everything changes in a year. But, I mean, the Packers, one thing is, I think there's going to be a big matchup if the Bucs and Packers meet in the championship round. I think that's going to be an issue for them, because I just think the Bucs have a really good front seven that can put a lot of pressure on you.
And we saw what happened the last time they played, man. That was the worst game all season the Packers played in Tampa Bay. They got blown out.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a long time ago, but...
Yeah, things change, but at the same time, also, the Bucs have improved. So, I mean, I think they have a decent formula, because they could actually, put 2 guys on Devontae sometime. And they have a really good front seven. And Brady, playoff Brady, no one wants to really go against this guy.
And we know he could win in the cold, man.
He can. And, I mean, in New England, so that's the matchup I would want to see, Brady versus Rodgers. But we'll have to wait a week. But, yeah, I mean, this Packers team, they really set up for the next couple of years. It's just, one thing I gotta say is, what happens if they didn't draft Jordan Love and drafted a receiver?
Well, dude,
how good would they be?
Well, dude, I gotta tell you, man, I actually think that part of the reason why Aaron Rodgers is this good is because of Jordan Love and the pick they made. I really do believe that one of the reasons why they drafted Jordan Love was not only because they liked him a lot, they must have, obviously, but because they thought that it could wake up Aaron Rodgers a little bit. Aaron Rodgers last year, bro, was not this good. Like, he was nowhere close to this. His numbers were good, but I think we've had this conversation, bro. Like, when you watch the Packers last year, like, they were fine. They were a fake 13-3. They were a good team, but they were kind of like the Steelers. Like, they were good, but they were just not as good as their record made them out to be.
Yeah.
You watch the Packers this year, like, you could clearly tell, like, that's a legitimately good football
Super Bowl
team. Super Bowl contender. Yeah. Actually, dude, I don't know if you saw, I posted on Twitter last week my Super Bowl predictions. I did predict them over the Ravens before the playoffs, and I'm hoping that is could work out well.
I mean, it's still a possibility, yeah.
Still definitely a possibility. But dude, I'm looking forward to seeing what Sean McVay has cooked up for him, and I just wanted to talk about that, kind of the dynamic of both leagues in terms of young quarterbacks, and how it's crazy that in the NFC, you look at the names. Jared Goff seems like a franchise quarterback. Kyler Murray is a franchise quarterback. Russell Wilson, even Dak Prescott at a time, Carson Wentz at a time. But there are so many question marks in the NFC. And then you look at the AFC. We got Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Tua maybe if he could develop, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, bro. It's crazy just how loaded the AFC is going to be.
Yes,
the quarterback.
Yeah, man. So I mean, one thing just going back, if that was the case about Jordan Love, then I think it's worth it. But because you get Aaron Rodgers playing at elite level. But if it wasn't, bro,
it was a ballsy pick.
It was, and it was questionable, but it's paying off now.
But yeah, right, yeah. Dude. Like I feel like most football fans forgot Jordan Love even existed. Like
that's how good Aaron Rodgers has been playing.
Exactly, man. It's crazy, and he's
a first round pick.
Yeah,
and that's a big investment.
Yeah, and it really does show, man, like how good Aaron Rodgers is. Like we forget how talented and just how dynamic this guy is. Like he is one of the best football players I've ever seen. Some of the things he could do on the football field, like. It's crazy. There are not a lot of other people that could do what he could.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, we're seeing a Hall of Famer, obviously. Yeah,
and the MVP.
Yeah, current MVP.
Yep.